Ah, yeah, here I am live. Yes, yes, yes. Make one final adjustment on my wig there. Yeah. Hey, I even put on a t-shirt today. How you doing? Oh man. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. Let's just put it that way. Got my water so I don't have to get up. Oh, well, I'm still here. Um, what's been happening? It's funny. I've applied for about 4 jobs this week. A couple of them programming jobs, and a couple of them I can't even remember what. But it was kind of interesting because I got this one thing from um it was from the state of Pennsylvania, and it was apparently for a job I had applied for. And I think I had to take some kind of test in the process, and they came back and they said you got a 98 on the test, and I'm like, I don't even remember doing this. It's like, so what does this mean? You're just telling me I got a 98 on the test? Does that mean, I scored really, really high and you're considering me for the position? What? It doesn't tell me anything. Ah, I had one guy contact me, and I think I told you that was last week. It was Johnson and Johnson job. It was like, are you a Scrum Master? It's like, no, I don't have a Scrum certificate. Oh, well, they're really looking for somebody with a Scrum certificate. Yeah, well, they ain't going to get it from me. I guess they'll have to just do without my 35 years experience, because some dipshit with 2 years experience has a Scrum certificate. They'll take him. Okay, yeah. Go ahead. Enjoy. Yeah. Enjoy. That's what I always like. I still say a lot of what I have working against me is my age and my experience. Because these companies, they want so much exacting stuff that if you don't have one thing that they're looking for, they'll say, well, we can't use you. You don't have a certificate. I once ran a project that ran on for 9 months I did it with 4 engineers, industrial engineers who built and designed compressors. Let me tell you, if you have never worked with engineers, it is an experience. It's like working with gruff programmers. I mean, it really is, because they have their own language, they have their own way of doing shit, and they're just as technical as us. And by us, I mean programmers, because they have to be. These guys were constructing parts, and they were constructing parts and assemblies for an entire compressors. They had to know what they were doing. I mean, and I ran a project with these 4 guys, and they were all guys. I think this was when I was at Solaire, and I think we had like one woman who was an engineer, and all the rest were guys, and a lot of them were older guys. In fact, one of the guys who was in my group, he retired not long after we did that project. And in fact, he actually gave me a heads up. He said, I'm going on vacation in a couple of days. I want you to know I'm not coming back. And it's been a pleasure working with you. And he had actually said at one time, I was the only programmer he had ever worked with who knew what questions to ask and had a lot of respect for the engineering staff. So he always liked that. But I mean, it's like, if you've never worked with engineers, it's a completely different experience. It's strange. And we got along real well. We defined the project. We scoped out the technical specs that we needed. I put everything together. I had them review everything. We went through the entire process. I wrote the programs. I kept them involved. We went through the look of it. We went through testing and everything else. And when it was all said and done, They actually went to their head, their member of their executive board who was in charge of programming. And they said that I was the first programmer they had ever worked with who really understood engineering and understood what they needed. Basically, because I wasn't trying to give them what I thought they should have. I tried to give them what they felt they needed. But I got a $250 bonus out of that. Really, that was 90. That was 98 or 99. Yeah, I got a $250 bonus check out of that. I took it. It's $250. Yeah, I'll take it. Meanwhile, I basically saved the company tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars due to the fact that engineers didn't have to spend a lot of time figuring out how shit got screwed up. Because our old way of doing stuff was really bad. It really was. So, but I got $250 out of it. But I think that's a lot of it. I think a lot of it is they look at my age and they say, oh, 61 years old, she's not going to stick around. And then they look at my experience and they go, 35 years, she's going to want $100,000 and we're only going to pay her 50. I mean, they're not even calling me back for shit. I was worried that this week was going to be the week I was going to get an eviction notice. And at the last moment, a friend of mine, a very close and dear friend, actually covered my rent for the month. She said, don't worry about paying it back right away. When you get a chance to pay it back, pay it back. But yeah, she covered my rent. So I'm good for like another month. About this time next month, I'll probably be worrying about an eviction notice. And I've actually been looking into things like low-income housing. I've actually applied for low-income housing to the point of like where I only make $500 a month. Literally, I make $500 a month. Yeah, I could use low-income housing. So we'll see what happens. The bitch of it is a lot of low-income housing goes to you if you're 62. I'm not quite 62 yet. Oh, it sucks. I should start saying, I did tell him, I said, I have a disability, which nowadays severe depression is listed as a disability. And I do have it. I do suffer from it from time to time. So, yeah. So I'm still hanging in here. I've got bills piling up. I mean, really. And right now I think I've got about $20 in the bank. So I'm going to ask if you can hit my coffee and, drop a couple of dimes in there. And I don't mean 20 cents, but I'm going to actually post it up on my wall probably today or tomorrow. And, ask for a few bucks, ask for a few donations. Last time I did that, I actually got $400, which helped. Really, all I really need is like a couple of $100 to get me through to the end of the month. So I'm hoping for. Let's see. Fortunately, there's only 12 more days left in February, then we get into March. And then the whole stress issue of am I going to be able to pay or not pay kicks in again. And I keep my fingers crossed that next week is going to be a better week. Let's just hope something pops up. I don't get it. I'm not even getting called on shit. That's what I don't get. I'm not even getting called on shit. So, and it's like, oh, we have this immediate need for a person. So I apply for the job and I never hear anything. You get used to being ghosted. It's funny because there's been several articles that I've read in the last few months where companies complain about, especially millennials, ghosting them. And by ghosting, if you're not familiar with that term, ghosting essentially means the person contacts them, or they'll tell them, we're interested in you for the job, let us know if you want it. And then they never hear anything from the person. And they were saying, is ghosting a good thing for a job applicant to do? Well, it works both ways. Is ghosting a good thing for a company to do? Because I've been getting ghosted a lot. I'll hear about shit. And then that's it. I'll get contacted on stuff. They'll say they're submitting my resumes, and then I never hear another thing. In fact, I had the one place I went to do an interview, the mental health facility here in Harrisburg, where I actually interviewed with them. And they said, okay, we'll get back to you within a couple of days. I never heard a word from them. Never. They never contacted me. I mean, it completely just ghosted me. So it works both ways. Don't ask if ghosting is a good thing for, someone looking for a job to do, when the companies that you're looking for a job with do the same thing to you. And they don't seem to think it's a problem. Yeah, like I said, it works both ways. Don't bitch about us not contacting you when you offer us a job because we decide, no, I don't really want that job. And by the same, when you turn around and it's like, did I get the job? And I never hear anything from the company. I guess not. That one company, the one place I interviewed with, it really did kind of piss me off that they had said, we'll get back to you in a couple of days. And I never heard a word. Never. They never sent me an email or anything. That's just like, this is kind of bullshit. I mean, I guess I didn't get the job because they never contacted me. Oh, geez. Hold on. I'm just checking something here. I know. You shouldn't be checking things, Cassidy. You shouldn't be checking things. That's my job rant. So I'm still hanging in there. By my fingernails, which are cut short. I've actually gone back to starting to chew my fingernails again, which is something I never did when I used to get manicures all the time because I didn't want to ruin my manicure. Yeah, but I've gone back to, like, every once in a while I'll catch myself chewing on my fingernails. And the last few days, I've actually been watching TCM Now. I've been watching a lot of the movies that they're running on TCM because right now TCM's running what they call their 31 Days of Oscar. Everything up to the Oscar telecast on the 3rd of March, I believe it is. Double checking here, but I believe it is the 3rd of March. Yeah, Sunday. It's all Oscar nominated or Oscar winning films. So I've been watching a lot, and yesterday and the day before was my David Lean time. I haven't watched the trio. I watched 2 of the 3 big trios, big epic trios of David Lean. Lawrence of Arabia and Bridge on the River Kwai. I have yet to watch Dr. Zhivago. I may watch that today, but I had a period there where I watched Dr. Zhivago like 3 times in a month. So I probably will pass on Dr. Zhivago. I'll probably find something else to watch. But it's interesting to watch it. I'll watch those movies now. Lawrence of Arabia is, well, first off, the movie is quite famous. I mean, Lawrence of Arabia, it's a great film. It's the longest movie without a female speaking part. It's like 3.5 hours long. And it is. It's the longest movie without a female speaking part. There is no woman that has an actual speaking part. There is one scene in there where you hear a bunch of Arab women doing the and in reality, they weren't Arabs. They were actually Jordanian Christian women that they had hired because at that time when they were filming, a lot of the Muslim people in the area were objecting to having their women filmed. So they actually hired a bunch of Jordanian Christian women, and they dressed them up in burqas, so you couldn't tell. And then they just superimposed the soundtrack. They just stood there essentially. But yes, the longest movie without a female speaking part definitely does not pass the Bechdel test. It doesn't. It doesn't even come close. Does it pass the Bechdel test? It doesn't have any women. Oh, yeah, it's a huge sausage fest. And then Bridge on the River Kwai, which does have a couple of female speaking parts. It has one woman. No, it has two women with speaking parts. Really, well, more than that if you count the women, in what they called at that time Siam, who are speaking in what they called then Siamese. There's probably about 4 women who have speaking parts in Bridge on the River Kwai. And one of those parts is a nurse who goes, "Oh, yes, he's down there. Look at that bruise." But I'm watching those films through the filter of today. And both Lawrence of Arabia and especially Bridge on the River Kwai come off as having highly colonialist attitudes. Because when I'm watching it, especially Bridge on the River Kwai, which I watched yesterday, and you're watching Colonel Nicholson, and I think part of his motivation for wanting to build the bridge and make it the best bridge possible is not that it's going to keep up morale within his unit and keep everybody together cohesively as a group, but it's really kind of like this racist colonial attitude. And in fact, he even says, we're going to show these people, and he's always pointing at the Japanese. We're going to show these people that we can do this better. And for the longest time, I never really looked at it that way. And then when I was watching it yesterday, I was like, oh my God, it really is. It's that mid-40s British colonialist attitude that we will show these people that we know what we're doing. Even as prisoners of war, we're going to show these people. And that's what he always says, these people. He never says the Japanese. He always says these people. And of course, there's a lot in Lawrence of Arabia. There's a lot of prejudice going on, particularly with the Arabs, which they don't call them Arabs half the time. They usually reserve a different word for that. Yeah. It is pretty interesting to watch those movies nowadays and realize, well, at the time they happened and at the time they were filmed, no one thought anything about that. But you watch it nowadays and you're like, oh, shit, man. Damn. Man, there's some, it's white people saving the day again. And it's the great and interesting thing about Bridge on the River Kwai is that Nicholson was so intent on showing these people that white guys could do the job better that he didn't realize, like the doctor said, I think we're collaborating with the enemy. This could be construed as collaboration with the enemy and maybe even treason. And Nicholson comes back and says, "You don't understand. We're not going to let these people show us that we can't do this job." He's so hung up on showing the Japanese that white guys can do the job better that he's completely lost track of the picture. It's all about, it's this whole white savior complex that comes into play, and he gets blinded by it. What's the term? I cut off my nose to spite my face. That's basically what he's doing. And if you think about it, if it had been them working with Germans, they probably wouldn't have busted their asses as hard to show up the Germans, basically because of the race thing. But this was a case of, no, we're going to show these Japanese that white people can do the job. That's the takeoff I get on it now. I mean, really watching it, I was like, oh my God, yeah. Colonialist attitudes are so strong in that film. And given when it was written, and it was written by a French author, Pierre Boulet, who wrote Planet of the Apes as well. But, he wrote it in the 50s, early 50s, I believe. And of course, there was a lot of that colonialist attitude still floating around it. What do you mean still floating around? It was there, baby. It was there. Yeah. I can remember when Singapore was still a British enclave. Yeah, I do. I mean, I was still a kid when Singapore was a British enclave. The first time I went to Hong Kong was 6 weeks after handover. So I never got to go to Hong Kong when it was being held by the British. And I never got to Macau when it was being held by the Portuguese. But I've never been to Macau. So, but yeah, they hung out in those areas for like forever. And the only reason the British left Hong Kong, if you know your history, Hong Kong was theirs. They didn't have to leave. The problem was they leased the land north of them, what they called the New Territories. They leased it from the Chinese for 99 years. And that's where the majority, like 99.9% of all their water and some of their food came from, was from the New Territories. Well, the lease was running out. The lease was going to run out in the late 90s. And the British knew this. And the Chinese were like, we're not renewing this lease. Forget about it. So that was why the British were actually forced to leave Hong Kong. It wasn't out of like some altruism of, oh, we no longer need to be here. This is a Chinese city. Let's give it to them. No, it was out of like, they're just going to starve us to death. They're just going to dehydrate us and starve us to death. And we got to leave. And that was basically it. Same thing with Macau. There was just no way in hell the Portuguese were going to be able to maintain it as a colony. So, those colonialist attitudes. Yeah, we got them. White people save the day, except when they don't. What can I say? So, anything important happening to me this weekend? Yeah, I have my Dutchland t-shirt on because the title of this video is "This Is Almost the Day." This is the day is a song by the, which is one of my favorite songs. I love that song. This is almost the day. And what do I mean by that? Well, tomorrow, I actually am in my very first derby bout. Yeah. And I will play an hour. Play an hour broken into 3 20-minute segments. Excuse me. I'm going down with 2 of my teammates. From what I understand, 3 or 4 of my teammates are actually going to come down and watch us play. And one of them's a coach. So, yeah. I have been told by my coach, she said, I think you'll do okay. So, I hope so. Because Thursday night at practice, I was not on my game. I was really kind of like 50% there, 50%. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Yeah, it was pretty bad. I shouldn't say that. Everybody was even telling me, it's like, look, we have off days too. And we've been playing for years, and we have off days as well. So don't beat yourself up over it. This is basically what I was being told. Don't beat yourself up over it. Everybody's going to have an off night. One of the things I did in Thursday night practice was we were doing a drill, and I kept calling out the location of our jammer. I was bracing, and I'm like, she's over here, she's over here. And it's like, wait a minute, that's our jammer. I'm telling the other team basically where our jammer is, because I'm so damn loud, you can hear me everywhere. And she came up to me afterwards and was like, don't tell them where I'm at anymore, please. I was like, I'm sorry, I fucked that up. I didn't mean to do that. And I apologize. She was actually the one that told me later. I apologize afterwards. She goes, look, everybody has an off night. She goes, don't worry about it. She does just keep doing it. It was Megapixel, her and I, the new TOC class was actually skating their first 27.5 that night. And so the vets, I'm not actually a vet. I'm a rookie. We're skating the outside, and we had to double up because it was Valentine's Day. So they said, grab a partner, and that's going to be your skating partner. So we're skating together going around. We didn't hold hands because that's too hard. And in fact, like she said, you don't really want to get used to holding hands when you're skating side by side, because if it's in a derby bout, that's a multiplayer block, and one of us is going to get to the penalty box. Which is right. And we were singing I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick. We were singing it, but I was the loudest. But as we were skating around the outside in the OPR lane, I want you to want me. I need. We were skating at a pretty good pace. And I was really surprised that I was able to sing. I mean, I wasn't skating all out. I haven't been able to do it much because I have all this soreness in my groin muscles from using them a lot. Yeah, that's what I actually told a friend the other night. I said, I come home every night from derby practice with a sore groin. And part of that is from I'm using those muscles more and more every time. And I know they're getting stronger because they tend not to hurt as bad after a day or so. Whereas there was a period there when I had to take my Thursday night break. It was basically because my groin hurt so bad I couldn't skate. I couldn't get any speed because when I'd start to push off, it's like, ow, ow, ow. My groin muscles hurt. So they're getting stronger and they're recovering faster. And I posted a meme. There's a meme. They took clips of from The Wolf of Wall Street where DiCaprio was all drunk trying to get into his car. If you've ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street, you'll know the scene I'm talking about, where his character is so lit that he's like trying to push the door open with his foot and stuff. He is like blackout ass drunk. And I said, that's kind of like me after I drive home for 40 minutes after practice, because that's about what it takes me. It's about 40 minutes to get home. And then you're sitting you get home, and as soon as you park the car, you're like, oh my! There have actually been times when, and I was telling Coach Punk this, There was one time I was going home and my groin hurt so bad that when I went to lift my foot off the gas to touch the brake, I couldn't lift my leg. It hurt that much. So I actually had to take my right hand and pick my leg up and put it on the brake because it hurt so much. And there was another time when after driving home, I parked the car and I'm trying to move to get out of the car, and my legs and my groin muscles hurt so bad. I literally sat in the car and cried for about 2 minutes. Just like, oh my God, this hurts so bad. I did. And then I managed to get out of the car basically by lifting my legs and moving them out of the car. I mean, it was just like, oh my God, I was dead that night. That was before I took a night off. It was seriously, it was just like, oh God, I can barely move. Really, it was intense, and I still go back. That's the thing when you look at it. You look at like that kind of pain that you're in. Thank you. You come home from practice and you're in that sort of pain, physical pain. And then a couple of nights later or the next night, you're right back at it going, okay, I'll just do this. That was before I took the one practice night off after I went 39 consecutive practices. And I said, I got to take a break. Just like I can't, I have nothing anymore. I'm going out there and I'm pushing myself too hard to do shit. And I just don't have anything anymore. The well is kind of dry at this point. And, I had a couple of coaches say, listen to your body. If your body says you need rest, take the rest. We're not going to 39 consecutive practices. No one's going to hold it against you. Don't worry. And I am kind of allowed to miss right now I'm doing 10 practices a month. I'm actually doing about 12 practices a month, but I don't have to do. Yeah, I still have to do about it. That means I can miss like a couple of practices. So, and sometimes you need that. Sometimes it's just like, I'm not going to go in today. I hurt too much. So I'm allowed to do that. And I'm starting to do that. I'm starting to recognize that maybe today I need to take off practice because it's just, I'm not getting anywhere. Except I took one Sunday practice off a few weeks ago, and a couple of people are like, where were you? We were expecting you to be here, and you weren't here. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to let you down. But, yeah, practice has been good. We did Wednesday night. We were doing scrimmage drills, and I was drilling mostly with the All-Stars. Most of the people in my group were All-Stars. And after it was over, Dash, she told me she did pretty good considering it was the All-Stars. And, Thursday night was not as good. Tomorrow we're playing. Yesterday I was actually down and I was doing some modeling. We're modeling some gear. It'll show up soon. But yeah, tomorrow this is it. I'm down to, by this time, 36 hours from now, I'll either be on my way back from Hagerstown, Maryland, or I'll be at the after party. And I am if I go to the after party, it's to refuel, get some food, and I will limit myself to one drink. Why am I limiting myself to one drink? Well, I'll tell you in a minute. One, I don't like to get drunk anymore, but there's another reason too. And I don't like to get drunk anymore because If you know my history, and I think I've talked about this before, I used to get blackout drunk. I mean, literally all the time. Going back to when I was like 17 years old. I kind of consider myself in a way a borderline alcoholic. And it's kind of difficult for me at times, depending on my mood, to shut down my impulse to drink. I'm much better at it now. In fact, I will limit myself to only like 3 drinks. And a couple of times when I haven't done that, I really, if I've got a hangover, I can't function the next day. I really can't. I just got to like lay around and drink water and recover because I just can't function. It does too much damage to my body. But I mean, man, when I was younger, Illinois had drinking at 19 right before I turned 19, and they turned it back to 21 a couple of months after I turned 21. So from 19 to 21, there was a bar I used to go to right over the border from Dyer, Indiana. And I hung out there so much that people would actually call the bar looking for me. You're 20 years old and your friends are calling a bar wanting to know if you're there. That's not good. And yeah, there was one famous time when I was sitting at the bar, I drank 18 Heinekens. Yeah. And they kept serving me. They didn't give a shit. This is back in the days where bars were like, can you walk? Yeah. Okay. See ya. You know, nowadays, by about the 4th Heineken, they're going, give me your keys. Of course, nowadays, it's more like by the 4th craft beer. They're like, give me your keys, I'll call you an Uber. Back then, it was like, you drank 18 Heinekens. Can you walk? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, see you around. And I was. I was just like, I knew I was not going to get home. And a few of my friends were walking indoor as I was going out, and they stopped me because they just said, you're so drunk, you can't see. And apparently I was just like, my eyes were unfocused and I was slurring my words and everything else. It was just like everything I could do to stay on my feet. And that's because I used alcohol as a self-medication. That was my coping mechanism. I'd self-medicate by just, getting blackout drunk. When you're 20, 21, 22 years old, yeah, you might have some bad days, but you usually can force your way through a hangover if you have to. Nowadays, man, if I drank like a dozen beers, you'd have to check me into a hospital. You would. I mean, literally, I would just say, take me to the ER because I'm going to be dying tomorrow. Just have them put me in the hospital and hook me up to an IV and give me oxygen because I am not going to be able to function. I will basically lay on the floor dying and moaning and probably, relieving myself in my own. I'll be laying there in my own ways. Yeah. So anyhow, but I will limit myself to 1 drink. And yeah, I'm nervous about tomorrow. Tomorrow's my first bout, such as it is. And fortunately, I think on my team, there's only one person who says like she's played in 3 games, which is the minimum amount of games, the maximum amount of games you can play in and still do Battle of the Freshies. Most of the people are like, I've only done 1 game. I've only been to boot camp. I've only done scrimmages. That's me. So I joked with the one person, she says, oh, I've done exactly 3 games. I go, you're the vet. You're the vet in the group. But we kind of came to, I'm hoping, I know I'll block. I'm hoping to play pivot a couple of times. I'm hoping maybe I'll even be a jammer. probably won't be a good jammer, but I'm looking at it as, well, I wasn't a good jammer against our all-star team. Which is to say, there are all-stars who are not good jammers against our all-star team. So don't beat yourself up, Nomi. Yeah, I'm not a good jammer. Yeah, against people who've been playing like 5 years. Yeah, you're not a good jammer. I gotta look at it that way. It's just like I can't come out and go, oh man, I was a train wreck tonight jamming. But you were jamming against the All-Stars. Yeah, but I was still a train wreck. Yeah, but you were jamming against the All-Stars. You were jamming against people who've been playing like a minimum of 5 years. Some have been playing longer. And yeah. Stop beating yourself up. Really. Against freshies, maybe some of the things I've learned, I can use them. I definitely hope so. But oh my god, I went to Battle of the Freshies last year because I had a teammate from Hardwind, and Battle of the Freshies has been described as either it can be a pretty awesome event or it can be a complete shit show. Last year was sort of like combination of the two. Boy, just watching it, I'm thinking about what I saw last year, and I'm like, I can't do any worse than some of these people. Yeah. Oh, one of my teammates even said, I heard it can get pretty penalty heavy. I said, yeah, I watched a couple of people go to the penalty box like boom, boom, like that. They'd go to the penalty box, come out, and then like a minute later, not even a minute, like 30 seconds later, they're back in the penalty box. I think they tend to be a little lenient on us because we don't have that playing experience. But yeah, like last year, one of the blockers got a penalty. She comes up and she sits in the jammers chairs, and the NSOs are pointing where they want you to sit, and she sat in a jammer chair, and you're like, no, you got to move here. You got to move here. You're a blocker. And you can tell because they put a J on the chair and they put B's on the chair. So you jammer blocker, And then there was another who, the proper procedure, when you get a penalty, you're in the penalty box for 30 seconds. So the proper procedure is when you come into the penalty box, the timer, the person who times how long your penalty is going to last, is pointing at the chair they want you to sit at. So you come in, boom, and you sit there. And you just sit. You sit for 20 seconds. And then with 10 seconds to go, and they have to time this so that when they're done saying the phrase, you have exactly, you have 10 seconds to go. You learn how to do this. So in my case, I will be wearing black, and my number is 882. They never call you by your derby name because it's just too damn hard to remember. And since we have our numbers on our back, it makes it easy for the NSOs. So if you're sitting there at the 20-second mark, right before there's 10 seconds to go, you'll hear, in my case, and I know I'll hear this tomorrow, black 882 stand. And you stand up, and you stand for 10 seconds. This basically lets everyone know that you're ready to come back into the game. And especially if it's the jammer, you'll start hearing coaching, yelling, the jammer standing. People in the pack should be watching for the other team's jammer standing up because that means we got to get ready. We got to get set to block them. And then after the 10 seconds is up, when you finish your penalty, you'll hear black 882 released. Now, when you stand, you cannot stand until the end of the command. If you hear black 88 and they're talking to you and you stand up before they finish the phrase, they will tell you to sit back down and then do the phrase again. So that extends your penalty just that much more. And it's the same way when they release you. If they go black 882 release, and the minute I hear black, and I'm the only black player in black jersey in the penalty box, if I take off, they'll call me back, and I'll have to come back and sit down, and they'll go through the process of like black 882 stand, black 882 released. And when they finish saying release, then you can go back into play. One woman last year, I don't know what her number is, but I'll just use my jersey color and number, and it was like black 882 stand, and she stood up and took off. And they're yelling at her, get back here, get back here, get back here. And her coaching bench is yelling, stop, stop, go back to the penalty box, go back to the penalty box. So she stops, and at this point, she's like 50 feet away, 50, 60 feet away. So she stops and goes back, and the NSO is like, you cannot go until I release you, sit. And she sits down, and then she was like, black 882 stand. And the woman stands, and then they count off the next 10 seconds. So her penalty actually ended up going about 45 seconds because she took off. And there's some people, that's the thing. There's some people, they don't know how to do penalty box procedure. I was pretty lucky. I spent enough time in the penalty box. I've spent enough time in the penalty box to know how to do penalty box procedure. And basically, I'll just sit there and watch the game because I want to see where the pack is so I know where to come in. And I don't say anything. It's just like serve your 30 seconds and get it over with. And then when I hear black 882 stand, I'll stand. And like I said, I know I'm going to hear that at least once tomorrow. I am under no illusions I'm going to go the entire game without a penalty. Especially if I'm jamming. If I am jamming, I can almost guarantee you I will either get a back block or a forearm at some point. And when I'm blocking, I have to really watch it because I tend to be the sort of person who stop blocks, especially against like little tiny jammers who run into me and just go boom, 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 boom. I've already been, like I said, I've already been told Nomi is real hard to move. She is. When she said she's real hard to move, and this is from a vet. Yeah, I can take a hit, and I've already had a couple of jammers like hit me and just sort of bounce off, go the other way, because they couldn't. It just depends. If I'm set and I know you're coming, yeah, I'm going to be locked down. You basically got to hit me when I'm not expecting it. Or you got to get me just right. So, but yeah, I'll have penalties tomorrow. Especially if I jam. Especially if I'm the jammer, I will have penalties tomorrow. But I would like to play all three positions. The other night I got that we were practicing star passes. Star passes when the pivot, they wear the stripe on their stripe cover on their helmet. Accepts the star cover from the jammer. The jammer can do that. The jammer, if they get bound up, it's just like they whip it off and they hand it to the pivot. The pivot takes off, puts it on, they become the jammer. So we were actually practicing that. And I got to play the pivot the first time, and Venom was the jammer. And we had worked out, it's like, what's going to be your signal to let me know you're ready to pass? And she says, I'll call your name. I was like, okay. So I'm in the pack, and all of a sudden I hear, Nomi, like that. And I just like zipped back to where the other tripod was and just held my hand out, and Venom whipped off the cover and put it in my hand, and I took off. I mean, it was like boom, we were done in like 2 seconds flat. And it was great. I was like, oh, wow, we really pulled that off. Great. And I heard her perfectly when she called my name. I even told her that I even told her that after practice. It's like, even with everything that's going on, I heard you call me. Just like I didn't have to look around and go, what the hell's going on? And then once when I was jamming, when I was a jammer, and Venom was she was the pivot, and I got caught into the block, and she went proactive. I got caught in the pack, and I couldn't get out. And all of a sudden, I saw out of the corner of my eye, I saw her fly up, and she goes, "No, me!" And I just went like that and whipped the cover off and put it in her hand, and she took off. It's like 2 seconds. And like Lacey Knight said, and I know this because I went to 2 of Lacey Knight's clinics last year. Like Lacey Knight says, if you can't pull the star pass off in less than 5 seconds, just put it back on your head and keep going. Because the other team has got your number at that point, and there's no way. I mean, they're going to do everything they can to keep you from passing that star. And that was another thing we worked on, is how to keep the pivot away from the jammer so they can't pass the star. It was interesting. We had a lot of fun. It was. We have some great practices. I really love them. And I was even telling Dash yesterday, I said, there's a couple of drills that we were doing the other night. And I said, I really love those drills. I do. I really do love them. And she's like, I like them too. I love them too. And it is. They're really great practices. I love my practices. But yeah. I don't have the fear of being a jammer that I once did. I have probably been a jammer more in the last 3 weeks at DDR than I did in like a year at Hart. Seriously. I really did have like this kind of fear of being a jammer. And now it's like, I want to learn how to do it, basically, because I want to be a pivot. So you have to know how to be a jammer. Lacey Knight says that. Oh, yeah. I still fangirl on her. And now it's a matter of learning how not to back block and how to keep my arms down and how to get through the pack and stuff like that and get around the pack and look for holes. And it's getting better. The more you do it, the more you learn. So that's what I'm working on. So, but yeah, just play tomorrow, play my best, use my big mouth. That I'm really good at communication, so I'll use my big mouth. We've already had a couple of my teammates on the black team say, yeah, I'm pretty loud. So there's like 2 or 3 of us that have said, yeah, we're pretty loud. You can hear us. So we'll see what happens. But I want to play like every position. I don't always want to be brace. I'll be anchor a few times, and I'll be part of the wall, and I'll be the wall on the inside, and I'll be the wall on the outside. Play pivot, play jammer. I hope so. I hope, we can do that. So we'll see what happens. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be fun. But it's also meant for us to win. We want to win. We want to destroy them. So we'll see. I'll have tales of the Battle of the Freshies. And I'll also have tales after Monday night as well, because one of the reasons I'm only going to have 1 drink is because I am going to Monday night practice. Yeah, I have a bout on Sunday and a practice on Monday night. Why am I going to practice on Monday night? Because I'm going to try out for a team. It is travel team assessment. If you want to try out for a team, you can. I want to try out for the Blitz. That was one of the things that I told Dash Wednesday. I said, I want to come over and let you know I'm making it official that I'll be here on Monday night. And she goes, we know. Your name's already on the list. We know you're going to try out for the Blitz. It's like, okay. And then I asked Punk on the next practice. I go, "What time's practice on Monday night?" And she says, "It's always 9 o'clock. Monday and Thursdays at 9." And then she looks up at me and she's like, "Are you trying out for a team?" Because they have, they announced that the Monday night on the 18th is travel team assessment. And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to try out for the Blitz." And she's like, "Wow, great." It's like, oh my God. So I'm nervous about that. And I even told Dash, I go, "I'm probably going to come in here Monday night. I'm going to be a wreck because I'm still going to be sore from Battle of the Freshies." And she even told me, she said, "Don't worry about it. You'll do good." She says, "You'll do okay." She told me I did good against the All-Stars. So, oh, geez. But yeah, they already knew. I had actually told one of my other coaches, I said, "Yeah, I want to try out for that when you guys have travel team assessments." And I had also told Dash, I said, it never clicked with me. Whenever people said travel team, I always figured just the All-Stars. And travel team is the team that goes and plays away games. We have a home team, and they only play at home. And that happens later in the year. But the travel teams, they go to different places to play. And I said, it never really clicked with me when people were saying travel team assessment that the Blitz was included in that. And she goes, "Oh, yeah, we have the All-Stars and the Blitz are both travel teams." So I have already told a couple of friends I will do my best, but if I don't make the team this first time, it's groovy. I have a lot to learn, and the level of play at DDR is pretty high. So I'm still learning their ways. I know I'm a decent blocker, and that might be enough to get me a spot on the team. Don't know if it'll get me a spot on a roster. There's a difference between being on the roster for the team and being on the roster for a bout. I could become an alternate. I may make the team, but they may not want me to play right away, stuff like that. Or I might not make the team. I might have to practice a little bit more. That's why they do an assessment, and then they'll tell me, the next time we have an assessment, you can try out. We'll see. If I don't make it, I don't make it. That's it. It's that simple. I'm not going to get upset about this stuff anymore. I mean, it probably will be. If I don't make the team, I'll probably be like, yeah, I probably will be a little disappointed. But the level of play is pretty high. And if I'm not up to that level of play, coaching says we still think you need work in these areas before you can get on a travel team. Then it'll be like, okay, cool. I'll work hard. And then the next time they say, "Do you want to try out for the travel team?" I'll say, "Yeah, I want to try out for the travel team." So we'll see how it goes. Because that's the way it should be. Everything at DDR is a test. That's what I was told when I started the TOT program. Everything at DDR is a test. It is. It is. You are constantly being tested. So, and I already kind of know where some of my weaknesses are, and I'm trying to make them better. So, I'll do my best. Well, 59 minutes is up. I didn't think I was actually going to talk that long, but I guess I did. So, wish me luck. I may actually have a video in the middle of next week to kind of tell you how I did tomorrow and Monday. Just to sort of say, hey, look, this is what happened, instead of waiting until Saturday. Maybe I'll have a video on Tuesday put out there. Tell you my exploits. See me like, oh God, I heard so much. Yeah. It's not like I'm punishing my body. Not really. Not really yet. Okay. Well, Hope to be here next week. Maybe I'll see you on Tuesday. Until then, you guys take care. I'll see you around.